Good evening and welcome everybody to the Vision Committee meeting for September the 18th. It's 6 o'clock, the magic hour. So would you please call a roll, please?
Councilmember Cochran. Here. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Here.
Councilmember Hamrick.
Here.
Councilmember Jaquez. Absent. Councilmember Meisner.
Here.
Councilmember Turner. Absent. Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Here.
Mayor Troutman.
Here. Okay, on the agenda, we're going to move the Golden Age Center, which is item B, to another time. Orion, what date would that be if it's set yet?
October 23rd.
October 23rd, okay. And tonight we have Doug Ray with the Humane Society talking about their contract, and we're going to then talk about the clock tower and Centennial Park. So, Mr. Ray, would you come forward and talk to us?
Hi.
Hi.
Well, I received an email which was very nice for a heads up about this meeting because I've really never been told before, so it was nice. So thank you for that. Otherwise, it was like a shock. Ooh, that happened the night before. But yeah, the contract for 2020 is up. I didn't ask for a single penny more in 2020 than I did in 2019. I just didn't, in light of everything that happened in this past April, I just didn't feel comfortable asking anybody for an increase on whatsoever. So the county, the city, the small towns, I know Mr. Meisner's going to probably say something to me about that, but I just didn't feel comfortable because there was just so much negative press on the shelter April and May. And I mean, right now, as I was just telling Carrie, it's kind of like business as usual over there. There's really nothing changed. But then again, I don't go on Facebook, so I don't see what people are saying about me. But that's where we are right now. The contract in front of you is pretty much the same identical. Actually, when I was looking at the packet, there's a page on the contract that didn't print off in your packet. You're missing the second page. I'm not sure why that is. There's only 2 pages. There should be 3.
Makes sense now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Must have been double-sided. Double-sided contracts get you all the time.
Okay, well, thank you, Doug. Is there any other questions from council? It is essentially, from what I have seen, didn't look, they're like the same as last year. And
Yeah.
so are there any questions of council? Mr. Meisner?
I assume the sheet that's got the dog paw, or whatever that is on the front, that's dated July 26th, that's got some intake numbers on it.
Yes.
What is other?
Other would be snakes, gerbils, rabbits, goats, pigs. We get
Really?
those are others, yeah.
And apparently the DOA intake rate is significantly higher for that other category. Why is that?
Skunks. You know,
Skunks?
just a lot of skunks are run over. Where they're brought to the shelter. I don't want to say every day, but weekly we're seeing a couple skunks every
Just stuff
week.
that's roadkill.
Yeah.
I mean, for
Yes.
lack of a better term.
Correct. So like if you bring it in, if a resident brings it in, the sheriff brings it, well, this would just be for Canyon City. You know, the police bring it in, that's all included in that category.
Okay, go ahead.
Without a second page,
Well, there's a second page to the 2018 contract, so I'm assuming.
And it's
the
identical,
same.
yes.
Yeah.
It is absolutely identical. So the
so
second,
then,
yes.
so then we would refer to item D hypothetically, that we're looking at a $61,000.
Correct. That's exactly what it is this year, yes.
I mean, I realize, hey, we get bad press too, whatever it's worth. I'm just going to suggest, as I do with every other fee, that you modify that contract to show some cost of living increase. Otherwise,
Okay.
I mean, we're trying to do that with water, with sewer, and everything else to keep up with nothing else inflationary increases. And if you don't do that, you're going to fall further behind. And I would suggest that whatever that rate is for 61,000, that at least be adjusted by an agreed upon Denver cost of living or wherever the rate that we're using
What is that rate, Ryan, do you know?
I
And
believe we're
then-
using 2% for
2%, okay.
budgeting purposes.
So what's that, another $300 or something? Right?
1,200. 2% of 61?
Yeah.
Yeah.
1,200. I mean, that would be my suggestion. You and I have different philosophies about how to charge, but whatever you're charging, I still think is insufficient. But to keep it the same because of issues, I can't go along with that. And you're still providing
Okay.
a valuable service to the city,
Mm.
and I think we have an obligation to at least pay appropriately, and that should include a cost of living. That's my position.
I guess my reasoning behind that was, I've spoken to an awful lot of people over the past several months, and the vast majority have been supportive, and said, okay, we see what's going on here. But there's been others that have been really questioning, people that didn't question prior to. And it's kind of like going back to when I started here. I started actually next Tuesday it'll be 5 years that I've been here, but when I started, I knew we were incredibly underfunded, and I said to my board, I don't feel comfortable asking for a penny. Let's do this for an entire year and let people know what we can do, and then the following year we can ask for more money. So I guess it was a little bit of that. You know, here I am thinking, I don't want anybody up there to think, oh, what just happened over there? You know, what just happened over there? Are we really funding the right thing here? So that's why I thought, don't ask for anything, and let's just do it again for an entire year, just like we did back in 2015, and revisit it. But I'm 1,000% okay with doing what you're doing, because our salaries are going up $22,000 this year with the minimum wage finally hitting where it needs to be, so that would help.
I mean, if there's issues over there, then we need to reconsider the contract. I mean, that's my position.
There's no
And-
issues over there. There are no issues over there.
He's talking about funding.
Oh.
He's not talking about
Okay.
the other things.
Okay, I got you.
You know, I
Okay.
mean, that's my position, is if there's some problems with the contract or the problems with the facility, then cost isn't the issue. You need to look at the contract and see if there's another source or something, but
Sure.
I just don't see that as being an issue at this point. There needs to be some kind of an adjustment.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mr. Hamrick.
Thank you. And Mr. Ray, thanks for being here, and I'm happy to see you here after all that's transpired. I know you do provide a valuable service to the community, and I'm glad to see you here tonight. So one of the things that I do is I'm represent the city on the Combined Regional Communications Authority Board. Okay, that board was constructed about 4 or 5 years ago by the agencies that were providing emergency dispatch services to our various communities. Okay, and what they did, Florence had their own dispatch center. I think Canyon City had their own dispatch center. The sheriff's office had their own dispatch center. They combined all those dispatch centers into one. And they service multiple jurisdictions besides the ones I just mentioned. They, because it's the sheriff's office is involved, and so there's calls from the county, Coaldale,
Sure.
different places like that. And what the funding mechanism that was agreed to for that agency by all of the parties involved that created it was to add up all of the costs for the dispatch center once it was established in the sheriff's office, and then based on the number of calls per year by each jurisdiction, Canyon City, Florence, the county, then they just took that, they added up all those calls, took each jurisdiction's percentage and multiplied it against the total budget. And so my question for you is, if I understand this correctly, the current and historical data that we were provided in this proposal
Yes.
has costs split out essentially on a per capita basis, but different costs for different jurisdictions, if we want to call it that. Coal Creek, Williamsburg have a different cost than Canyon City or Florence or the county. Is there some reason that the budget can't be put on that basis where because you've got the statistics here, you've got the statistics of how many intakes occurred per jurisdiction.
Right.
Is there some reason that's not a good idea to do that, or what's your thinking on that?
And you're saying the same per capita for all 7 municipalities that we serve, correct?
Sure.
The reason for that is the smaller towns, and maybe the mayor could speak better to this, is when I first started, they were paying $360 a year. That's it. I bumped them up, and I received some significant feedback. And there was I believe there was a mayor's meeting that I wasn't invited to. And they were talking about several things, and I know the county was involved with this. And I got to the point where it's just like, why even bother? Why even bother dealing with that over there? So I'm just going to leave them alone and where they are. And looking at their per capitas, they're like at $1.50, $1.50, $1.50. If I was to bring them up to where you folks are right now, $2.68, holy smokes. What I had 2 or 3 years ago would be significant right now. And they probably wouldn't contract with us, which means we wouldn't be able to serve them. Then we have the residents that aren't being served, and we have the animals that aren't being taken care of. So I would rather take the hit on those smaller towns. And
So excuse me for interrupting.
Sure.
But it's not you that takes the hit. It's the bigger contributors that are taking the hit to cover the
No.
unfunded portion.
No. You folks aren't picking up the slack for anybody else. Like, we know when I started, like, the county was paying $14,000 a year. You guys were paying $30,000. But what I did way back when, I put together a 4-year, it was actually a 3-year plan, but I put together I extended it 1 year to 4 years. And I said, okay, here's what the per capita is going to be. And it was all the same per capita, $3 up and down. Everybody was going to do it. Everybody was going to get the $3 until I received that pushback from the smaller towns.
Well, so if I understand what you told me then what your concern is that you're afraid that if you put everybody on an equal basis, I mean, the animals are brought to you. You're not going out and actually picking up the animals.
That's correct, yes.
Right? So the in-the-door cost is the same, if you look at on a per animal basis, it doesn't matter where the animal comes from.
Sure.
Your costs are still the same per animal if you divide them up that way. And so your concern is that for instance, let's just use Coaldale as an example. I don't know if this is true or not. It doesn't matter. We're talking hypotheticals here.
Sure.
But if it's Coaldale, you're afraid that they will not contract with the Humane Society and will then leave the animal population unserviced in their community. Is that correct?
And the residents, correct. So like, if somebody in Coaldale, we're not contracting with them, if say we weren't contracting, wanted to bring an animal into us to surrender, we couldn't take that animal because we don't take animals in from areas that we don't provide services to. So,
Is there a way, and I'm just, brainstorming here, okay? Is there a way that you could, if you knew what the cost per animal was, even if you weren't contracting with a particular jurisdiction, that if someone brought an animal from that jurisdiction, you could just charge them that fee when they come in the door with an animal?
we could, but I don't think people would pay it. Right now, we are waiving fees every day for everything. People are coming to reclaim their animals, they don't have money. We're just always waiving fees. I can't even imagine what would happen if, we started charging people, $128 to surrender their animal. I don't think they would do it.
But we're not talking $128. We're
Well,
talking $3.50, right?
No, but you just said that the
Per
cost of care per animal, it's $128.
It's $128.
Yes,
Significantly higher.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
It's different than the per capita.
gotcha. So what the per capita does then is it really just dilutes the fee, and I may say artificially. So it's $128 per
Yeah, the per
animal?
cap, that's how animal control contracts all across the country are arrived at, is by the per capita data, by the residents that they serve. So 5 years ago, that's the plan I put in place, was here's going to be our $3 per capita, which you, the county, and Florence are at right now, but the smaller towns were there as well, because everybody should have a copy of that original plan, and I had everybody at $3 until I received the pushback back in 2016, I believe it was, from the smaller towns.
And so the amount you're asking in this contract is, do we have that memorialized somewhere in there?
Well, it's going to be 60, it's going to be 6130, 61,
And that's more than I was planning on asking. Tony was the one that approved that. He said that he could get more money for us, and I was all for that. But my plan, what my plan was, it was not for $61,000. It was for less than that, because when you look at the per capita sheet here, it says in 2019 it's $49,200. That gives you $3 per capita. That's what I was going for. Tony was the one that said we can do more money here.
I understand. And I'm not, you know, I don't think that the city should ask the Humane Society to fund the problems that we have with animals. And I think that that's also true for the other jurisdictions, even though they may want to kick and scream about it. But our 61,000 divided by 877 is $70 per animal. That would be $70 per animal based on the statistics that you provided us. That's the 2018 statistics that you provided us, is that correct?
That's
In the July
correct.
26th?
Yes.
Yes.
And then come next year, when we do this again next year, then next year's numbers will be for our current year.
Mr. Ray, I'd like to ask you, I would like to see that for all of the communities that you serve, that you have a contract with, I would like to see that broken out on a per animal basis. You know, like I say, I'm not kicking about a dollar amount here or anything, but my concern is equity among the different parties that are serviced by your, you know, by your agency, by the service that you provide, the much needed service that you provide. And so I would like to see that. I'd like to ask for that if we could get that before. Do we have to vote on this tonight?
oh, we're in the preliminary stage.
This is just preliminary. So
This
we're-
is just
all
discussion. Absolutely.
This all we're not doing any votes tonight, so I would like to see that, if you could, please.
I guess I'm not exactly sure what you're looking for. Price per animal for,
For your,
But-
so what I
because
would like.
when I
to-
said 128, that's for everybody. So you're looking for me to break it down by Canyon, by Fremont, by Florence, by everything?
So as I understand it, you're keeping statistics on how many animals are brought to you from each jurisdiction.
That's correct,
And you
yes.
have those jurisdictions listed in your letter. And so I'd like to take your total budget amount, divided by those total animals, get a per animal fee, what your service that you provide costs, that is your cost, and then look at that and see how that works out in terms of the jurisdictions. I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not jumping up and down here and say, hey, we got to do certain things a certain way or whatever, but I would like more information if you could, please.
Okay, sure.
Okay, Mr. Meisner?
Two questions, I think, too. So, had Tony not made some adjustments, am I correct in that you would have recommended 49,200, which equates, I guess, to $3 per capita?
Right. Tony was pretty adamant that the county pay the same per capita as the city. And the county's increase for that year was substantial. And Tony and I did some work on it, and he said in order to bring both locations up to $3, actually, no, I'm sorry, I take that back. That would have been $3 in 2019. The county is paying, I don't have that, I have that on
Looks
my
like
computer.
the county would have been at 75.1.
And that's where they are now, but it's not $3, it's not this, hold on.
So are they going to be at 76 instead of 75? So,
This is an old sheet. See in the bottom, it says 2017. I've updated this, so let me pull up the updated one.
I guess my end question is, is your contract with the county going to be at 76, which shows on one of these charts?
76,000?
Yeah. Doesn't it?
I'm not sure.
Shows on a chart
Okay,
here.
I'm pulling up to 2019 right now.
74.4, which
So
is 75.
That's what it's going to be. So what it is in 2019, Canyon City's at 396 per capita, Fremont County's at 396 per capita. Tony was adamant that you both be the same.
Right.
The county's paying 74,499,
Right,
and you're
okay.
paying 61,300.
I was thinking somewhere that was 76, so, okay.
And Florence is at 398. They're 2 pennies more. I'm
And-
not sure why that is.
And you're proposing to the county at that 74.49? Have you talked to them about that figure at all?
I've just sent out the contracts with that figure in it. All the contracts I sent out for this year were the same exact contracts for last year. I'm sorry, for the current year.
Right, but so the contract for the county for 2019 was 74, not the proposed one, okay.
Correct. 74,499, and that's where the conversation came in, and Tony says he wants to pay the same per
Right.
capita. It boosted you folks up. And I was all for that, because it was more money for the shelter.
I'm unconfused.
So
or
are you
confused.
saying that you want to see, or you're looking for numbers to see
Well-
when you reach out to county that they will still be doing that $74,000 for 2020? So
Correct.
it will
That's the
still be
contract that's
same.
on the table for them, yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I would
See
hope that the
reactions.
county also recognizes the value of your service relative to the cost of inflation and would also offer a cost of living increase. So that, I mean, it's just fair from my viewpoint. I'm not a commissioner, but I'm just saying that,
Well, it went from 44,000 to 61,000. That's a pretty hefty.
that was last year.
inflation. Well, it was 2000.
2018,
Current year.
2019.
It was 2018-19. We're talking about the new contract for 2020, and ours would go from 61.3 plus 2%, or whatever the cost of living is, would make it 62 something, 65. something.
62,526.
Right. And I would suggest with the county that they recognize the value of your service and the cost of living expenses that you have, and increase theirs from 74.49, a cost of living adjustment, so that whether we're the same or not at this point is kind of a separate discussion. But
Sure.
part of my discussion, Ms. Smith, was to confirm that both of us are at that 396 per capita for 2019, which we are,
Yes.
which is what our goal was, part of our goal 4 or 5 years ago. And I recognize, I don't know that it's been communicated, but I recognize part of Doug's problem is that if you aren't providing a service to a community and they bring in an animal, then one of those options is when they leave, they just drop the animal off. And then the
Right.
animal gets picked up and brought in anyway. So it's not a black and white solution in terms of not providing the service to some of those communities.
Okay, yeah, and I do attend those mayor meetings, and I do not know how these little towns make it. They don't have a tax, they have basically, as I understand, they get a mill levy. And they talk about $1,000 as just something huge. When the budgets are almost nothing. We have the taxing authority. Those places you're talking about have a taxing authority, sales tax, whatever. Well, some of the towns have no retail whatsoever. Even if they had a tax, they wouldn't be getting anything.
Right.
They have to live on mill levy, which is very, very low. And so I think basically we have to agree that this facility is important and we need to fund it, and that goes along with it, because the alternative is they're not going to bring animals that need your help or at all, and they'll be just feral. And,
Right.
So I have no problem with it, but I think that's what I hear from them. And their complaint is, we just don't have the money. And that's true. They don't. Even if they had a 3% sales tax, there's no retail sales.
Right.
But, so they have to live on it.
I think
Okay.
we've got a
I think we're beating it to death, but I think that it's,
community moral issue.
absolutely, I agree with that. So, Ms. Smith?
Well, I just had some questions because I feel like I need to have answers when the public asks me about the contract that's been renewed. And so I just have a couple of curious questions. I don't want to,
Sure.
my intention isn't to open up old wounds, but just to seek correct information. Where is your stand on the no-kill philosophy? Are you, what is your percentage, and are you being more open to the euthanasia for those dogs that have terminal problems that aren't correctable?
We've always been open to that. No-kill just means you don't kill a treatable or a healthy animal. We've never killed treatable or healthy animals. You know, the narrative out there is that we're just doing something completely different than we've done the past 5 years, and it's just blatantly false. So we don't have animals that are staying in the kennels for months that need to be euthanized. We just don't. We never have.
Okay. And what about some of your past partnerships that were put under stress or divided in the springtime? Or have those been mended? Do you still have good partnerships with other entities in community?
Partnerships like
Like with
who?
the Dumb Friends?
Dumb Friends turned their back on us. Nothing I can do about that. They're the ones that turned their backs on us, and I understand why they did it, but there's nothing I can do about that. It's not affecting our business whatsoever.
Okay. So how is the climate at the Humane Society today?
It's fine. The staff is wonderful. We're doing a great job. The shelter's half full of dogs right now. You know, last month we had like 26 openings in dogs. We're doing a fantastic job. Getting the animals out of the building once they're coming in. We're doing a wonderful job. I hear from the community all the time. The community comes in and they talk about what the atmosphere is like in the shelter now versus what it was. So it's everything that happened is very unfortunate, but you know, today I firmly believe that the shelter is better today than it was.
So what kind of changes have been made that you feel that make it better today?
Staff changes. I mean, it's almost an entire new staff. You know, I lost 33% of my staff in 4 days. You know, and I just got a brand new staff from a new shelter manager on down, to a new customer service manager, you know, new volunteer manager, new employees up front. I mean, new staff makes all the difference in the world.
Okay. Thank you for answering those questions for me.
Mr. Meisner?
So, I think I've probably asked you this before. Anyways, how many animals in your shelter do you send to another facility? Do you have that number?
I do. Hold on, let me pull up that sheet. I can. All right. So right now, year to date through August, we have transferred out exactly 300. 122 dogs, 174 cats, and 4 others.
Generally, why do you do that? I mean, I don't know. I just.
Well, all open admission shelters have to move animals out of here. If it's not through adoption, it's through rescue. So rescue groups will come in, like today, Cooper's companion was there. She took 4 dogs from us. That's the way that we create space without having to kill. We've never had to kill an animal for
Okay,
space
so they're
before.
just rotating them around.
Right, so then they take them for us for free. So it's like somebody comes in and does an adoption, they pay for it, but rescue groups take the animals for free. We don't charge them at all. Then they take them into their organization and they will charge. That's the way it is all across the country.
And all of those groups are no-kill type groups? Or do you know?
I don't know. I don't know. You know, I don't know what their, you know, philosophy is on that. So in other
So
words,
you could be-
we're just not working with no-kill groups. We're working with all, you know, certified rescuers. As long as they're a certified pack for rescue and they're in good standing, we will work with them.
So if you get in whatever kind of dog that was we was going to outlaw, that was barking at the fence, a vicious dog, what do you generally do there? How do you determine if a dog that's brought in that seems to be a problem dog, how do you handle that, and how do you determine whether that dog, I mean, what happens to the dog? One, if you determine that that the animal is not vicious, and two, what do you do with that animal if you determine that you feel that there is an issue with being able to put him up for adoption from a safety standpoint?
We would put it down. You know, I'm just looking at the numbers right here for this year. When everything started in April, we had put down, well, I don't want to use owner request. We had put down 11. For May, June, July, and August, we've put down 11. So we put down 11
okay.
the first 4 of the months. We put down 11 animals
That you
the last
determined
4.
weren't safe?
Yes, or
Okay.
medically, you know, maybe we sent them to the vet and, you know, the prognosis for them is grave. Then
Right.
we would put them down as well.
But do your numbers differentiate between a dog that's unsafe and a dog that's terminal?
Yeah, like I have like treatable medical dogs here, non-treatable medical dogs, treatable behavior, non-treatable behavior. So I have 3 non-treatable behavior dogs that have
Okay.
been put down. So that would be what you're talking
Okay.
about.
Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Hamrick?
So and perhaps I don't understand this well enough, but essentially what we have is, it's really a county-wide problem we have with stray animals. It looks like Penrose has their own solution, is that correct? That they have their own animal control officer or something? I mean, I don't see any.
No,
Your county.
I believe the county covers Penrose.
County
The
covers
co-
Penrose.
The county ACO covers
Right.
Penrose, yes.
Okay, all right. So, but essentially, the way the Combined Regional Communication Authority Board works is the taxing authorities are the ones that divvy up the cost on a per-call basis. And the problem really that we have is that we have some taxing authorities that can only use mill levy, other taxing authorities that have other funds that come in through different sales taxes. And, you know, it would seem to me that it might be worthwhile to think about that situation and talk with our partners. I don't know if there's any solution, but, you know, if this, it seems to me that our animal shelter needs to be put on a county-wide basis with some per capita share paid by the appropriate taxing agencies, and not try and push, you know, animal control off on perhaps the smaller incorporated areas like Coaldale and things like that, where they don't have a tax base. But that's just my opinion.
The smaller towns typically don't have ACOs. They'll have, like Westcliff was at the shelter the other day. It's the public safety works guy. He's the one that brought the animal in. He's not an animal control officer. I don't believe there's anybody in Rockville right now. I don't think there's anybody in Florence. I believe the county's covering all of those.
Thank you.
Yes, they are. Ms. Cochran?
To kind of play off the direction Ashley was going, one of my concerns is that there were reports of expired drugs being used, one instance in which a dog was given expired euthanasia drug and took him several hours to pass. My concern is that this is going to continue to happen if you're not asking for more money.
No, the
I
expired.
realize I have to be kind of careful here because I did work at the Humane Society and I did work in the medical department, so I know that there were expired drugs in there. And I would like to see that change, and I just don't see how that's possible if you're not going to be asking for more money.
Oh, it is, and we're no longer euthanizing animals at the shelter. We send them to our contracted vet. So all of these animals that I said are put down, we haven't put a single one down since April.
I'm
So
not talking strictly about euthanasia, I'm also talking about antibiotics and vaccines and, you know,
Well, it's
all of
costing
that.
us more money to send the animals to the vet to be put down than if we did it on site, but
You
there's.
don't have a veterinarian on site that can legally do it, do you?
We do not have a vet on staff, that's correct.
So you're not really left with an option there, you have to send them to,
We would either have to send them to a local vet, or we would have to do it on site ourselves.
but legally you can't do it on site yourself because you don't have a registered vet tech or a veterinarian that can handle those kinds of drugs.
No, that's not true. We've had certified vet techs in the shelter before, and that's all the state requires that we have. We just don't have a certified vet tech in there right now.
Right.
But we have somebody in the building that went through a certification. So she would be, according to the state, she would be okay to put an animal down. In fact, Dora was at the shelter recently, Department of Regulatory Agencies, and they saw that certification, and they were okay with it. It's right on the wall in my medical.
I'm just going back to, if you're not going to ask for more money, then I don't see how the shelter can progress in the care of its animals.
But we are right now. You
That's-
can't believe everything you hear out there. You just can't. We are. We're doing
Well, I
fine in the
work
shelter.
there.
And I welcome anybody to come into the shelter anytime, to walk around anytime, 8 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock at night, whatever. You're happy to see whatever's going on in the shelter.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, now this will come to council. We're going to come for bring it to council soon?
We can put it on the next city council consent agenda if that's the pleasure of council.
Yes?
Okay.
Yes?
And you're going to negotiate some kind of price,
Negotiate the cost of living increase.
something,
I will speak with Mr. Ray.
and represent the city appropriately?
Yes, sir.
Wow. Okay, thank you, Doug. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Let's move on. We have some staff chomping at the bit out there, I think.
She's ready to roll.
Oh, well, are you here with regard to the clock tower and/or Centennial Park, Dina, or?
I'll start the clock tower discussion. Dina's
Okay.
here to
Okay,
talk about, conceptual designs and
Take it away.
some of the process. Several council meetings ago, we had a discussion, or Ms. Smith asked for us to take a look at the budget of the improvements for Centennial Park and kind of take a look and, maybe put some things on hold while we re-examine that, where we might be able to reallocate some funds either to the clock tower or possibly Macon Plaza. There is a memo that Rex put together kind of outlining where the budget was. The original budget for 2019 for Centennial Park improvements was $550,000. We did transfer some money away from that project to make improvements to the Trestle Bridge, as well as fund the Neighborhood Initiative Program. That was $138,415 that was moved away from that. So that left $411,585 for the budget for Centennial Park. We have made some improvements to pavement, drainage systems, irrigation. The remaining budget as of last week was $253,032. We do have some additional expenditures that we are expecting. There are 3 16 by 24 park shelters that we are going to replace. Originally, this was going to be a $75,000 expense. What Rex is proposing here is to have buy the materials, buy the shelter units for $43,000, and have staff construct those on site. We do have 375 feet of 6-foot sidewalk connecting all the features. That's $17,000. That's going to, that's a critical element, connecting the new handicap access ramp from 4th Street to the sidewalk system within the park. The pedestrian bridge lighting project is not, we had a pre-bid meeting on that. That's not to exceed $50,000. That's kind of the way Whitewater had strung up some lights along the pedestrian bridge. This is a more permanent option to make it look like that year-round and not have to worry about loose wires and things like that. And so we're waiting on the bid for that. Existing shelter demolition was $3,000. Some additional electrical work and landscaping materials. All told, what we think, even if we make all these improvements, that we'll still have around $100,000 that we can either put back or put towards another project, whether that's Macon Plaza or the clock tower.
Thank you, Ryan.
I think, you know, from my perspective, even if we are going to do something at the clock tower, you know, we're still going to have to do some design work and map that out. We have some conceptuals that came from the Arkansas River Corridor Master Plan, but we still need the design work to, you know, make sure that we're, you know, covering all of our bases.
Ms. Cochran?
Just a question for clarification. When you say park shelters, is that like storage sheds? Or
No,
is that like
those
shade?
are the picnic shelters.
Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Smith?
Well, I'm the one that requested us to take a look at.
You're the one.
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry. But I did really feel, just to open up the conversation, that there's so little money to spend with taxpayer money, and I want to make sure that we do it prudently and efficiently. And I guess my feeling was that we've done a lot of improvements in Centennial Park. It's absolutely gorgeous, and maybe we need to think if, with some of these newer opportunities we have, whether it's Macon Plaza or Doritos, or potentially a little part of Constantino's, that money is, maybe it needs to be spread out a little bit more throughout town instead of putting so much into one place in these past couple of years. So I just wanted to make sure that we were comfortable with it. So right now we have $100,000 that could be left, but even if we thought at Macon Plaza or at the clock tower we wanted a small water feature, maybe a little small, more decorative splash pad that kids could play in but would still be beautiful for the, you know, the onlookers, I think we're still looking at a minimum of $200,000 for that. And so any savings we can help. When I look at this list, I mean, I don't want to give up the pedestrian lighting project because everybody loves those lights so much. And if we could have light shows on it too, that would just be absolutely incredible. And I think people would really love that. But I'm not so sure if and I'm not saying we would never do these things at the park, but maybe it's time to pause and kind of spread the love a little bit. I know our downtown merchants are really anxious to see some more development downtown to help bring people to downtown and be able to spend some time there. They would love to see their priority is Macon Plaza, to see some more things happen there.
If you don't mind, I think, you know, if we could finish off these projects and just kind of finish this phase of the park, that'd be great. We are expecting that $100,000 savings, and currently in the budget for 2020, we're not planning any further improvements to Centennial Park. I think it is time to move on and you know, maybe start designing or going back and looking at some of the previous plans for Macon Plaza and having a little bit, you know, having a second look there.
I'm happy to hear what the other council members'
Okay.
feelings are on it.
Mr. Meisner?
Well, you probably don't want to hear what I want to say, but
No, I do. That's why I asked for the
I find it
discussion.
interesting that you start out by saying we have more prudent uses, because that would suggest that our original budget for the park wasn't prudent. If we have an extra $100,000 or $100,000 in savings, I would suggest that we not spend it and that we roll that over, however that happens accounting-wise, because we do not know what's going to happen next year. There still are some big question marks in terms of what is going to happen economically in 2020. And there is the potential for a turndown, and any additional capital that we have, I think we need to store it versus spend it. And as we move into 2020, we haven't spent that and the economy is settled down, then I think it makes sense to come back and look at spending money for Macon Plaza or for the clock tower. But at this point, if you've got an extra $100,000, I suggest not spending it, but saving it.
So if we're looking at economic downturn, should we spend any money at Centennial Park? The
things that we have at Centennial Park, I think are reasonable decisions. The only thing I question is that we continue to hear about the shortage in the park staff and that they need more and more staff, and then for some reason we turn around and say, well, we're just going to have our staff build them, which is conflicting with other statements, particularly I think in the proposed budget of adding a park staff member because we're shorthanded.
Yeah, and I would say, I think that, was taking a look at this with, the eye that we're trying to save some money for improvements elsewhere.
Okay, Ms. Gonzalez?
So, I guess my feeling on this is we've started to do something really great. I'd like to see it finished. We can budget and plan for other projects coming up, but we've also got discussions coming up on Urban Renewal Authority. We've got our facade grant that we just passed. And if downtown is feeling like they want some more development, we can make it happen, but let's finish Centennial Park, get it done. Let's not have any open hanging projects left to finish within 5 years. If we've got the money to do it now, let's just do it. And then we can budget for future projects coming up. That's just how I feel about it. And I think we need to encourage business owners downtown to take advantage of some of these incentives that we have. Maybe we need to market it a little better, go out on foot. And I know, Ryan, you're swamped right now, but get the word out. Inform them.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Mr. Hamrick?
Thank you. I just wanted to second those comments. I think they're well considered and appropriate.
And Ryan has plenty of time. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So what we're talking about, sounds like, consensus may be that we would continue with it, try to make the savings and put that aside, roll it into next year, and see how it looks, and then possibly, or come up with some projects that would be subject to the proper income from the city. Okay? Because I agree. I think we should do something at Macon Plaza. Well, the clock tower will probably stand on its own 2 feet. People that are parking there now. And landscaping has a lot to do with what will happen going across Highway 50, but Macon Plaza is there, and I believe should be enhanced, and it'll be used more. The Arc Center is going to have an owner who is going to enhance that, take care of it, so I think we should follow up on that if we have the funds to do that. Mr. Meisner.
I mean, just in closing, I'm not opposed to anything with Macon Plaza or the clock tower. My approach would be to decide what we want to do that's going to improve that thing, and then budget for it, versus saying, hey, here's $100,000, see if you can spend it. I just am fundamentally opposed to that concept. If we have $100,000, let's don't spend it right away.
Okay. Well, I just want to thank council for considering my my concerns. I just want to make sure that we are moving forward, and for me at a comfortable level, and so I'm okay with the mood of the council on that.
Well, we'll take a look at possibly doing some planning and more design type of work, something that's not as nearly as expensive as spending $100,000, so we can get to a point and understand what a budget figure might actually look like for improvements at the clock tower.
Well, or it sounds like Macon Plaza might
Or
be the
Macon Plaza.
place where the priority would be. And I guess that's maybe would be the next question is that where we want to look to the future?
I think in conjunction with that downtown group, we need a plan. We don't need another study, but
Well, there
some
is
kind
a-
of
yeah.
some kind of a specific plan that the new council can actually act upon in terms of, we want to spend, I don't care if it's $300,000 at Macon, but it's because it was a sensible plan versus $100,000 that we had that we decided to spend on park benches or whatever. We just need to change that process in terms of develop something that makes sense, that people agree to, budget it, and then get it done.
So there is a plan, and I think Dina can probably come up with something that we can look at and consider. I mean, it's a really rough plan and vague, but
Right,
But we
there's
can-
the downtown strategy, and
Yeah.
we can take a look at updating that, and, you know, looking at the Macon Plaza portion of that part of the strategy.
I mean, in particular with Macon, those downtown merchants need to be polled and be involved in that whole process. If it's that critical, those people need to have some input on what needs to happen there. And I think they've probably got a better idea of what can happen in Macon that would help than what we do, with all due respect to staff.
they are eager, and I would think that they'd be very happy to join in those discussions.
They need to be given an opportunity to join in those discussions.
And I even gave them an opportunity to be here tonight, too, as well.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have, is Dina going to address us on something, or?
Dina was
No?
here in case we had any questions about
Oh.
some of the, you know, designs or, you know, current, you know, plans. She's done some really nice mock-ups of what the clock tower could look like, and
Yeah, I would like to see those, too.
I do have a question
Yes,
along those
sir.
lines, and that is, are we, for Constantino's, we're just open to, if there's a private party that wants to propose some business development there or some development of that area, we're open to that. We're looking at a parking lot as an interim measure. Are we looking at including that in any of our change in zoning for the riverfront? Is it possible to include that perhaps as to set, I mean, because you know, some of the feedback that I'm hearing is that if you just hand it over to a private business person, they may say, oh, I want to do this.
Sure. So what we're looking at doing, because, you know, the riverfront zoning really isn't going to cross Highway 50, so I don't know that it's, you know, it makes sense to look at that particular zoning. But what Dina and I have been discussing is putting together an RFP with actual design standards in it to kind of mirror what we would like to see there on that corner.
And those standards would be enforceable by the city.
Right. They would be design standards that would be contingent along with the sale
Yes.
or, you know, transfer of property.
Right, as part of the contract.
Correct. And we'll bring that RFP to council before we put it out.
Thank you.
Mr. Bynum, you're burning out your light, Mr. Meisner, but go right ahead.
That hurts. Relative to the Constantino thing, I just want to reiterate, personally, I was in favor of that whole project to get to the point where we're at today, under the understanding that the city should not be in the development business. We need to be moving that real estate and generating tax dollars. That's the
Correct.
only reason that I was in favor of that, is to take that property and generate tax dollars.
And that is the goal of the RFP, is to get it back into private hands.
Right. I just had two quick questions. One of them that his, Ms. Smith,
No, you
sorry.
go ahead, you go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. The stormwater, is it appropriate to ask where we're at in that, especially in the Dawson Ranch area? Are they?
Dawson Ranch, that bid should be coming
Yeah,
before
it's-
council.
I've seen a bid for that somewhere.
Okay,
Yeah, in my
The bids are
administrator's
just-
report, it was listed as one of the upcoming bids.
okay. And how about the wayfinding, the big monument signs on either end of town?
Yeah, those monument signs currently scheduled for construction to be completed by the first to second week of November.
Okay. All right, Ms. Smith.
Oh, I was just going back to Constantino's, and I do have a little bit of a stubborn streak about the Constantino's because I'm really partial to that little tiny triangle in the front corner, that to keep that for an entrance to downtown or a welcoming to Kansas City and making it nice for that welcoming into our town. But we'll see what comes out of all of it.
Yeah, we'll
I just-
take, yeah.
I just want to keep that little bug flying around Dina's head on that. And I did actually get a timetable on the culverts. I was trying to find that email on the timing, and I think they were going to start construction at maybe around October 21st is when they were
Okay.
thinking. Yeah.
I guess the other side of that is we would have all the streets blocked off, including the ones in Dawson Ranch. Probably not going to work real well. But I know you had that figured out, so Ms. Gonzalez. Ms. Gonzalez.
Oh, well, one question. Are we still talking about the Golden Age Center too?
That's been postponed till October.
Okay.
I completely lost my train of thought. But I wanted to bring to attention the special city council meeting tomorrow at 4 o'clock. A number of us can't make that because we're working. So why are,
So the meeting tomorrow is actually a staff work session, and we have it posted open, as an open meeting, because council had mentioned that they would possibly like to attend some of those work sessions. So we've posted all of those as open meetings. It's not necessarily a special city council meeting, it's posted as an open meeting, so all of you can attend if you'd like to.
okay, will they be recorded?
We have not been recording them. They've been taking place in the back workroom.
Okay.
We do get notes
Yeah.
from that. So,
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I understand that now.
okay. Mr. Hamrick.
Thank you. Ryan, just one thing, our CML newsletter says that there's a recent FCC, the FCC has been adjusting cable rates, what cable companies pay in franchise fees. And so I'm just asking to have either you or our attorneys look at that. And it seems to me that what they're saying is that it's possible that our franchise fee that the city receives could be reduced unilaterally by the cable company. So I'm not sure what exactly the issues are there or whatever, and so I'm just asking for information.
Okay. Yeah, we'll take a look at that. The cable franchise, I believe, is up next year, at the end of next year, 2020, and I do know the city attorney has been in negotiations already.
Okay. Mr. Meisner.
I just want to back up Ms. Gonzalez's position or statement. My frustration has always been that we have these staff meetings to develop strategies that are always open to change, but when we get to the point where council gets involved, well, that was already discussed and agreed upon. And that's been a big circle that's happened over the 3.5 years that I've been here. And it doesn't seem to change that I realize it's a staff meeting and it's at 4 o'clock and I get off at 5 o'clock. So I either take an hour's worth of vacation, assuming it's approved, or I miss the staff meeting where I have an opportunity to do input. And God help me if I'm reelected, I will continue to fight to get those meetings that involve the public and involve council to get on hours where working people can attend those meetings.
Well, and the part that's ironic to me is it's posted because council members expressed an interest in attending, but it's not at a time that council members can attend.
That sounds
Well, not. You have CDOT there, you have the consultant there, and everything is put in order and laid out. And then, as I understood, then they would come and brief totally council on what the nuts and bolts have been up to that point, and the maps and everything else. I attended them, and really they're pieces that are being put together that will be prepared especially for us, and we'll be able to make that meeting.
Yeah, so that's the open house, which will be a public meeting, and we'll address council. You know, the feedback that we gained from council after the eastern part of the access control plan was that you would like to attend those staff meetings if you were available, and that's why we've made the choice or posting them as open meetings.
Okay. Go ahead.
Have we done the survey part or the questioning of the parties involved with those access points? Has any of that been done?
That, well, we haven't gotten to that point yet.
I know that, but you're posting information that shows John Doe's business is being blocked off. And what do you think John Doe's thinking?
So the draft documents, once we have a draft document, that's when we will go out and talk to the property owners.
Why can't you talk to the individual before you create a draft document? I get confused.
Okay. Well,
And I realize the engineer disagrees with me, and probably CDOT disagrees with me, but nobody seems to care about the guy whose entrance is getting blocked, and you're posting a diagram out in public showing his access being blocked, and he was never even mentioned. At least send him a letter and say, oh, by the way, we're going to block your access. But we don't even do that.
But that's exactly what this process is for, so we can
It's backwards.
start having those conversations. We need something to show them and have some reasoning behind why
Okay.
those accesses could potentially be closed.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Mr. Meisner asked part of my question, so, no, you actually had my question answered. I just wondered how much of the information that was given at these meetings, these staff meetings, were held within an open house. And the only thing that concerns me is there's discussions that happen during those meetings that we're not privy to just because of the time. So we may not fully understand something, or maybe we don't recognize something because we're not part of that conversation. But I understand. I get the process now.
Mr. Meisner?
When we did the RFP and laid out all those parameters, we could have stipulated that all of those meetings occurred 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock, and we chose not to do that.
We could, and at that time, our committee meetings were still at 4 o'clock, and we were trying to
I'll give you
schedule at that time.
Thank you. I'll give you that.
Okay.
Okay. Ms. Smith?
I was just going to add that clarification that the reason why the staff requested to have that open meetings, to be able to attend the staff meetings, for me personally, it was because I did not like going to an open house and being just as clueless as the general public on what was happening. I need to be educated and know and be familiar with the proposal before it goes to the public, so I can have answers and understanding, and if people ask me, I can have knowledge of the behind that. So.
Okay. Mr. Hamrick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'd just like to point out that when the map has been developed that shows, certain curb cuts being closed, certain accesses being closed off to Highway 50. What that is not a proposal to go out there and rip up the current opening and build the curb there or something like that. What this is a planning document, so if that property changes hands in the future, that those, at that time, when the property changes hands, the new owner would be aware that those curb cuts are going away as part of their purchase of that property. So it's not exactly like you said, but I want to make the further point that to back up and look at the bigger picture, essentially what we have then is CDOT dictating what businesses can or cannot exist along the Highway 50 corridor, which is not a real happy place to be in.
And I just want to clarify one thing there. It's not when the property changes hands, it's when development happens at that property. That's the
Right.
trigger for.
Thank you.
Which even impacts it more, because if you have a change of use, then all of a sudden your change of use doesn't apply because the property's been changed. So it has a huge impact on the current property owner, that you lose your access.
Well, everybody, okay. Point taken.
Okay. Any
Oh, yeah.
question? What? Okay. I would comment, but I'm not going to, all right? I sell the stuff. And I don't think it's, you have to look at it differently, okay? The developer may just welcome that. Accesses disrupt parking and everything else,
I agree,
okay?
yes.
So-
There's two sides to the whole thing.
Right, right. Anyone else? Well, thank you all.
No,
We're-
thank you.
We're adjourned.